Welcome back, guys. My name is James Sexton, and boy, do we have a great show for you today, folks. We talk about mankeeping, the latest in the phrases that are weaponized towards men. Diddy's legal team announces their first official defenses, and we take a deep dive into the epidemic or alleged epidemic of ghosting.
Everyone has been wondering, what is the argument for Sean Diddy Combs going to be? How does one take his situation? They have him so dead to rights. What's the argument? Lawyer comes out the other day and says...
I'll tell you what mine was. Mine was, we get him on an episode of My Strange Addiction, and his strange addiction is he likes to drink baby oil. Boom. Boom. Okay, we got that covered now. We explained all the baby oil, and once the baby oil has been explained, all the other stuff we just chalk up to conspiracy theories created by Mace. Sorry, what did his team say? That was just my spin.
So his team came forward and says that Sean...
They said, I hope, we have no specific recollection of any wrongdoing, but we acknowledge mistakes may have been made. We'd like to move forward past this unfortunate incident. Because, by the way, guys, that should be your answer to everything. Write it down, have it tattooed on your forearm, whatever you need to do. I have no specific recollection of any wrongdoing, although I acknowledge mistakes may have been made. I'd like to move forward past this unfortunate incident. Sorry, I keep interrupting you. Go ahead.
They probably should have called Sexton, because their argument was Sean Diddy Combs had First Amendment right to film twisted, quote, freak-offs.
The man had a right to film his freak-offs. You had a right to film your freak-offs. They didn't have a right to disseminate, no pun intended, disseminate. They had no right to disseminate his freak-offs. His freak-offs were consensual freak-offs, if you're his legal team, that he had a right to video them for any number of reasons. It might be that he's nostalgic. It might be that he wants to make sure that there's no arguments later about people not consenting. It could be any number of legitimate purposes. Look, what are we learning from listening to Diddy's defense team? We're learning what we learn anytime we listen to anybody's defense team in any criminal proceeding. Plausible deniability. This is the skill of a lawyer. The skill of a lawyer is to say, but what if the reason we did this thing was not the patently obvious thing? What if it was something different? And that's the job of a lawyer. Look, lawyering is full contact storytelling. And the other side has told a story. And that story is pretty easy to tell. We got about 1 billion gallons worth of baby oil and lots of crying people on the witness stand, some of whom are pregnant. It's going to create a tremendous amount of sympathy, and we all want to believe. People love when you throw a hero up the pop charts and then you watch them fall down head first. So that's something that we as a society love. We love the private lives of public figures. We like to believe that everybody's secretly a pervert and a crazy person because it makes us feel better about ourselves. I get it, folks. There's been so many iterations of this. It's been around much longer than me. It's been around when there were black and white silent films. But what you want to do when you're an attorney is you want to come up with plausible alternate theories. That's the key here. Remember those 3 words, plausible alternate theory, right? It's like Shaggy with wasn't me. You know, what happened? Oops, she slipped, fell, and landed on my penis. Whatever the plausible alternate theory is, that's what you want to push. What they're focusing on is essentially saying, look, this was consensual behavior by adults. This is a person who had lots of money and lots of access to all kinds of women and men and whatever other sexual activity he might want to engage in. You have no right to kink shame him. Why is it when Neil Strauss writes The Dirt about Motley Crue and talks about all the decadent sexual things that they do, or when Marilyn Manson writes The Long Hard Road Out of Hell and talks about all the crazy sexual things that he did, it's not a problem? Maybe it's racism, and that's why we're holding it against Diddy. Maybe it's homophobia, because there was some suggestion that he was involved in threesomes or other activities that involved men. If I was his counsel, I would be definitely trying to point people in other directions and say, hey, why are we asking so many questions about this? Why is this any of your business who he likes to have sex with if it's consensual sex? And that is really the push that his team should be making. It sounds like by saying you have a First Amendment right, what they're essentially saying is that he has a right to express himself, and your sexual behavior is in some ways an expression of who you are, that filming these things, unless it's done purely for the prurient interest, that it has some artistic merit or value. I don't know how far they're really going to take this and how much they're going to let the tail wag the dog. Pardon?
We have a quote from
Let's
them.
hear it.
The quote is in regards to the First Amendment from Combs's lawyer, Alexander Shapiro, quote, Mr. Combs's amateur pornography, like many other adult films, was creative, intricate, and highly choreographed.
There you go. Yeah, so it's art. They're trying to essentially say that he has a right to create art. This has been a defense that's went all the way to the Supreme Court. Larry Flint was one of the first people to really test this theory from a constitutional standpoint, to say essentially that sexual behavior is a form of expression. And that, look, the truth is if I offer a woman $1,000 to have sex with me, it's soliciting prostitution and it's an issue and it's illegal. If I offer a woman $1,000 to make a sexual film and I am a co-actor in that film and I follow the applicable rules, somehow I'm allowed now to pay that woman for providing acting services of that kind. So this always had some kind of hypocrisy built into it. There was always a contradiction in there that I think is very, very hard to get past, to suggest that prostitution is illegal, but sex work of making pornography is legal. I don't really know how we can reconcile those things. If it's art, it's art. If the presence or absence of a camera is what makes something a crime or not a crime, that's very, very odd. So it's a decent defense. It might be the best one that they have. I think they're really in damage control mode at this point, and they're going to try to come up with whatever they can.
The article of Mankeeping.
Mankeeping. Ladies, we need to have a talk. And I'm talking to the ladies right now, okay? It's me. It's Jim Sexton. I love you. I know you know that I love you, okay? So this is not me, it's you. And I say this with love. This is coming from a place of love. I want you to hear it as coming from a place of love, okay? I have the unique ability and the unique history here of having been the first male person to appear on the Girl Boss channel, on the Girl Boss podcast. I may be the only person raised by a Bella Abzug feminist who read Andrea Dworkin in college and belonged to the feminist collective, but also is friendly with Andrew Wilson and Rolla Tomasi and respected by a lot of people in the red pill space. So I have seen both sides of the arguments on all of these gender war issues. And I got to tell you, I and certainly my whole team are aware of all I have to do to get 1 million views and likes and comments and forwards is come down squarely on one side of the boys versus girls fight. So I got to get on and say something about how men, you're so insensitive and awful, or ladies, you're so selfish and terrible. And the other side, the crowd goes wild, okay? But that's not what this is going to be. This is me talking to you with love and respect and a sincere plea. The New York Times article recently published about the phenomenon known as mankeeping. We need to just set fire to every copy of that issue of the New York Times humanly possible, and then just abolish this term from your vocabulary. Look, I'm old enough to remember when men had two choices in life. You could be Clint Eastwood or Richard Simmons. Those were men's only two choices. And ladies, you were totally right, even up until a year ago, to say, men, use your words. Men, normalize therapy. Men, talk about your feelings. Men, talk to each other about your feelings. Talk to us about your feelings. Talk to someone about your feelings. It's the reason why men delete themselves at a level 10 times more often than women do. So the reality is, we heard you. We heard you when you said, men, talk to us, open up to us and to each other. Use your words. We heard you. To now turn around and say that you are doing the emotional labor of listening to us talk to you and confide in you and share intimacies with you about the things we're feeling is the cruelest thing you could possibly do to men right now. So I am begging you, this concept of man-keeping, wherein essentially it's being argued that women are having to do the emotional heavy lifting of listening to the men in their lives talk about their feelings and their problems. It's just the worst kind of misandry you could imagine. And I'm hopeful that many of the men who are in my audience, and I have a large male audience as well as a large female audience, I hope the men in my audience see that you can be a strong, willful, powerful, dominant, successful man who's strong and likes to do things like choke other men out as a hobby and beat them up in a courtroom as a profession, and still be someone who cries when they talk about their dog or cries when they talk about love or isn't afraid to talk about the things they're afraid of and the things that they're inspired by, and to cry from sadness and to cry from beauty and to cry from inspiration, whatever it might be. But please, this new want to be phenomenon of suggesting that men need to shut up again and stop talking about their feelings because it's heavy for you to carry it. Ladies, I'm telling you, this is the worst kind of an insult. Please, I beg of you, don't do it. We're moving finally in the right direction as a society when it comes to this. There are so many things going in the wrong direction, but this is something that might be going in the right direction. So please, I beg of you, you have the power in this situation to inspire us to continue talking to you or inspire us to shut up the way we did for so many years. And I am begging you, as your friend and as a man and as an ambassador for men everywhere, please don't do it. Don't shut us down. We really need the ability to talk to you and to talk to each other. And sometimes by talking to you, we learn how to talk to each other. So please, I beg of you, take mankeeping as a concept and let's pretend it never happened. Thank you.
What we have here is a subreddit that has gone viral recently. Now,
Reddit is always a great place to look for accurate information about what's going on in the world because there's no absolute loons who are posting disinformation on there just to try to dunk on the other side. That's sarcasm, by the way.
the original incels forum was on Reddit but got banned, but what has come out now is a page called kitchencels. So I'll give you a basic rundown, but I'll let you look at it. These posts have been going viral all over TikTok of incel type men posting what it is they made for dinner or made for lunch, accompanied with a bit of a backstory. So let's take a look at these photos.
All right, here it is. Everything in my life is going wrong. I'm a fat, ugly, autistic loner porn addict. None of my quote friends, unquote, like me. I try and fail to quit porn every day. I have nothing. I have no one. I don't know what keeps me going. Chicken and broccoli, what a stupid fucking meal. I mean, I agree on that. That chicken looks very sad and that broccoli looks very sad as well. So I think I see the trend here. My disgusting fat R-word self couldn't stop eating to even take a picture, no plate, because why even bother? I made this for a girl today, but then I asked for a foot job and she blocked me, black-pilled again. I mean, this is just, this has to be humor. I'm a chud idiot moron who has nothing left to live for. Breakfast, and it's coffee and Zen. I think that's actually the current breakfast of champions. God, I hate my life. I genuinely have no future. And that is a piece of, it looks like chicken thigh or chicken breast. I don't know what that is. With some duck sauce and some mustard and a glass of milk. Okay. All right.
So what do we think of r/kitchencels?
I mean, I think anytime you bring together two discordant elements, it creates a certain comedic effect, which I want to believe that's for. That's essentially like there's an Instagram I follow called, I think it's called Dogs Pooping in Beautiful Places. And it's just gorgeous photos, but then somewhere in it, there's a dog pooping. I think this is a version of that to some degree. This is like men allegedly sharing incredibly painful views of themselves or self-criticism, accompanied by photos of a meal that, well, I mean, the first meal looked pretty good, a grilled cheese sandwich with some scrambled eggs and sauteed mushrooms. That sounds delightful. But some of those were pretty sad. And I think the sadness of that meal as a metaphor for the sadness of that person's life. I think that if I was to say to you, man, I'm just feeling like a piece of grilled chicken and steamed broccoli, you would know exactly what I mean. You know, anyone who's ever dieted and eaten a lot of grilled chicken and steamed broccoli, like, you know what I mean when I say you feel like that. It's just like your day is just that sort of chewing away at this thing that has absolutely no flavor and may be nourishing you, but it doesn't really feel like it's nourishing any part of your soul. So, yeah, I mean, I think the juxtaposition or the complementary metaphors are interesting. I don't actually think that this is a thing. I think there are lonely people. I think there are lonely men. There are lonely women. There are lonely straight men and lonely straight women. There are lonely gay men. There are lonely lesbian women. Like, I think we're all just trying to find somebody who understands us, and so we can feel understood and that we can understand and help navigate them. I think it's a very basic human desire. I even think all of this pursuit of wealth, if you think about it, really it's just about pursuing resources so that you can in some way, you know, connect with another person and have some kind of authority with which to leverage into connection. That's why when people are incredibly wealthy, they very much still are constantly chasing relationships. I mean, you know, Andrew Tate has tremendous wealth theoretically, but really what is he known for? He's known for, you know, for pursuing women and having a whole gaggle of women. This is what happens. I think that no matter how much wealth you have, ultimately, trying to find connection with whatever the desired romantic partner would be, whether you're heterosexual or whether you're gay or lesbian. Finding a person who you can connect to is really the core ideal of all of this stuff. And so anything that helps people feel like they're sort of screaming from the void into the ether of the internet, I think it's just another way of trying to feel connected to other people. And so if we see this as what it is, which is probably an attempt at humor, I think it's pretty funny. If we see it as someone trying to channel their pain and their disconnection into some form of connection and screaming from the void, I think that's really good too. I'm a big fan of that. So I don't see any downside to it, except that seeing grilled chicken breasts and steamed broccoli always makes me sad. Ghosting. Is it new, or is it just a new name for an age-old phenomenon?
All these terms, it feels like on the show we talk a lot about terms, but I feel like one that's been around for a while that I think, has entered the mainstream sort of is the classic ghosting.
Ghosting has entered the chat. All right.
So I guess you've been out of the youth dating game a long time.
I've been out of youth for a long time, but yes.
But I know I, as well as many other young men, have had experience.
Ghosting.
We've been ghosted. We have ghosted.
Of course.
It's a common thing. It's a
Ghosting
phenomenon.
existed long before cell phones.
Really?
The concept of just disappearing on someone when you didn't want to, when you didn't have the strength or tenacity or proclivity towards engaging in the painful thing of telling them something they didn't want to hear and having to hear the consequences of that. And instead you just sort of took the coward's way out. That's been around a while. That's been around since I was much, much younger.
So what a lot of people have been noting and commenting on is this idea that you'll talk to somebody, because now, dating culture, it's very fast, very transactional. You'll talk to somebody. It seems like it's about to get serious, but then they'll disappear on you. So I have two videos here if you want to take a look.
All right, here we go.
Come with me to my cousin's wedding. What are your love languages? Mine's physical touch. I had asthma when I was a kid. How many kids do you want?
Gotta do my makeup before we go out.
Sweatpants, hair tied, chilling with no makeup on. That's in the other videos. Oh, that you don't.
Dude!
You make me laugh, babe. My heart's beating so fast. The pink toothbrush is yours.
What? What are you gonna say?
I've just never felt this way before. Bye, babe.
Bye.
I'll see you soon.
Wow.
That's our first
He's
one.
a good actor. I'll give him that. All right, I'll watch the second one. Here we go.
What's so funny?
Nothing. My friends are just gonna roast me when they find out I actually like someone for once. Oh my god, you're so funny. You make me feel like a kid again. You're so stupid. Do you have any baby pictures of yourself on your phone? I feel like you were so cute. Text your mom. I'm sure she has some. You can send her one of us too. Just promise you're not gonna hurt me, okay?
Okay, so, yeah, look, what those are videos of is actually how someone genuinely acts when they really like you and they're serious about having a relationship with you. So it seems like what these videos are suggesting is that right before people ghost you, they do the opposite of the behavior you would expect from someone who's about to ghost you, that they go deeper into the... Now, again, there's a nefarious explanation for that. And there is a non-nefarious explanation for that. And I'm sure that when you've been hurt by someone, you'd really like the nefarious explanation to be true. And that is that this person's just a piece of garbage. They knew that they wanted nothing to do with you. They were gassing you up to make you feel good about them for whatever selfish purposes, to get you in bed or to get you just whatever, to the thrill of being brutal to you and mean to you, that they're a sadist and they take pleasure in your pain. And that, of course, is fitting that person with horns, and it feels good. When someone hurts us, it's really good to believe that they're just an awful, atrocious person, and that's why it happened. There may be times where a person is intentionally hyping you up, knowing that they're not going to be able to follow through with it. There are probably also times where people in the moment genuinely feel a particular way. And then for whatever reasons, they are not in a position to back that up. They panic when they feel some real connection to another person or real intimacy with another person. Look, we use the term intimacy all the time, and most of the time we use it to mean sex. But intimacy is actually defined as the ability to be fully yourself with another person. So intimacy is scary because it's kind of holds up a mirror to who you are. You have to look at who you are to be in a relationship with another person. You're going to have someone who sees your blind spots if you're doing it the right way. That's not something everybody's comfortable doing if they haven't done work on themselves in the right way. And look, we've also by feeding people so much romantic drivel, like we've created a world where we have so much pornography that now everybody's trying to make their sex life look like pornography. And it's the benchmark against which they're comparing their sex and saying, well, my sex doesn't look like that, so I must be doing it wrong. I think it's the same thing as happening in our romantic relationships. We look at these idealized, stylized versions of things on television and on YouTube and on movies where everyone is just immediately so. It's like the one true penis arrives or the one true vagina arrives and suddenly we're saved. Everything that was wrong with us is right. Everything fits perfectly. Everything works great. Everything's wonderful between these two people, sexually, emotionally, familial, everything. It's all tied together. The truth is, real relationships aren't necessarily like that. Yes, they have moments of deep connection and ease, but they're also challenging and messy sometimes. It's another human being. It's hard being a human being with another human being who's their own human being, trying to navigate themselves while you try to navigate yourselves and you're trying to do this together. It's not easy. It's going to be messy sometimes. And again, what's the antidote? I wrote a whole book about it. The antidote is communication with yourself about what it is that you want, whether that's in the context of therapy or just reflection, and communication with this other person about what it is you want, what it is you need, what it is that they want, what it is they need, and figuring out how to do that dance. Relationships aren't baking. Baking is exactly 1 cup, exactly 1 tablespoon, exactly this 30 minutes. It's cooking, man. It's like you throw some stuff in, you got to taste it a little bit. Oh, I put too much salt. I got to figure that out. It's hard to take salt out, but it's easier to add salt. So now I know for next time. Like it's an art. It's not a science. So, we have to give each other a little bit of grace. But I think the challenge of ghosting is if you've ever had it done to you, I hope it would make you less prone to doing it to someone else because it's incredibly painful to not have any answers. It's also inspired, though, I will say, by the myth of closure. And I see this a lot as a divorce lawyer, is that people genuinely have in their head this belief that if they could just have a conversation with the person who's breaking up with them, that they would have some sense of closure and they would feel better about it. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you that I don't find that to be true. I find that it often just turns into the person trying to convince you why you're wrong for not feeling the way they'd like you to feel about them. And we feel how we feel. You can argue with feelings all you want, but you feel how you feel. If sheer power of will could make people stay together, there's a lot of people that would stay together, but they don't because their feelings don't match up with their intellect or their perception of reality. So I think ultimately, it's really important for us to realize that ghosting is bad. But the belief that if you just had a conversation, like anytime I talk to someone who's been a victim of ghosting, they always say, or a victim of infidelity, for example, if they say, well, if he just sat me down and said, hey, I'm not happy in the relationship, I'm not getting what my needs met sexually, we could have talked about it. And I always want to say, really? We could have talked. You sure about that? You sure about that? That was my homage to Tim Robinson. The truth is, come on. You really think that in retrospect now you're saying in lieu of ghosting, I wish this person had just told me how they actually feel or told me that they were having fears or doubts. But the truth is, would you have been receptive to that? You got to ask yourself that question. Did you create conditions? I'm not victim blaming here, but did you create conditions where this person felt like there is no way I can have a rational conversation with this person about how I'm feeling, the distance I'm feeling from them, and the fact that I need to end this relationship? It takes a lot. If you've ever been the dumper and not the dumpy, if you've ever been the person who gets dumped, look, you get dumped, at least you get some sympathy. You go to your friends and go, oh my God, this person broke my heart, and everybody kind of pats your back and goes around you. If you're the one who does the breaking up, it might be just as painful because you wanted it to work out. But nobody gives you that much sympathy because when you say, well, I broke up with this person, they go, well, if you were so sad about it, you should stay with them. But sometimes you're the one who has to confront the painful truth that we're just not meant to be together and we're not going to have a successful relationship. So again, I think ghosting, it's a real thing. I think there are now, the reason why we're feeling it so acutely, I think, is because there are so many ways to communicate with people now. It used to be you could write a letter, you could go to someone's place, or you could call them on the telephone when the telephone was an actual thing with an actual physical location. Now, You see that they're posting on Instagram, but they're not texting you back. So you're like, okay, they're near their phone, but they're not texting me. So there's all these ways to know that you're being intentionally ignored, and that makes it that much more painful. So that's why this age-old phenomenon, non-confrontation of something that's emotionally challenging to have with someone, a discussion about a breakup, a discussion about whatever it might be, ending a relationship, it's become incredibly, fraught ground where you can just very clearly feel that this person has cut off all contact with you from the myriad of ways they could have communicated with you. And that makes it acutely painful. And I get it. But I don't think, these kinds of videos, it's a good solution to the problem in the sense that it brings awareness to it. I think people are going to watch it and go like, okay, yeah, I've had that happen to me. Or maybe they'll watch it and go, ooh, I think I did that to somebody. And hopefully they'll use it as a teachable moment. Even if it's just something that people can relate to, I think this is actually what's good about the internet and good about things like TikTok is when we can have sort of shared experience as humans, as people in relationship, as people who've had their heart broken, as people who are getting divorced, as people who are parents, whatever it might be that we're going through, there is this great microphone that we can speak to a large audience and create commonality and community in a good way. And I think this might be an example of that. And you won't feel quite so alone if you know you're not the only person who's been ghosted. A sister, a dress, a consolation prize. It's all there for this Am I the Asshole? All right, here we go. We've got Am I the Asshole for being pissed that my sister missed my wedding dress shopping? I have no idea why I would be qualified to answer this question. I am neither a sister, nor have I ever shopped for a wedding dress, but I'm going to give it a shot. I, 26-year-old female, have a twin sister. Wow, that makes it much worse. Twin sister. We have always, and I mean always, been best friends. However, we have very different personalities and took two different paths in life. I graduated from university 3 years ago and started my career. My longtime boyfriend and I, now my fiance, bought a house together and settled down. Now we're planning our wedding for next summer. My sister, on the other hand, chose to stay in school and pursue further education. She had an exam thing last week that required lots of T's in there. And I mean a lot of studying in the past few months. I'm sure it was incredibly stressful and difficult. Now comes the issue. Months ago, after I got engaged, my sister, my mom, and I were deciding when to look for my wedding dress. Immediately, I said we should wait until after my sister's test was over because we looked so that she, A, wouldn't stress about it, and B, she could enjoy the experience with me. So that's what we did. Her test ended on a Wednesday and we scheduled dress shopping for the following Saturday. She thought it was a great idea and excitedly agreed to be there. Last Thursday came around and my mom proceeds to tell me that my sister won't be coming with us to dress shop. I was immediately upset and asked her why she wasn't coming. The answer, the test took a lot out of her, so she was going to the beach to relax for the day. By the way, she's off for the next 4 weeks and we're only 1.5 hours from the beach, and we've rented a beach house for the rest of August. I was pissed. I still am pissed. I called her on it and told her how it made me feel like the second choice, and as both my twin sister and MOH, maid of honor. Okay. She should be there. There was no changing her mind and she didn't come. She said she would FaceTime if I found something I liked. And guess what? I found my dress on Saturday. It's perfect. And the people who actually came with me loved it. We went for lunch and had a great time. And then my sister felt guilty and decided we needed to go to another store on Sunday to look. I hated every dress and she knew it, but she thought if she came with me somewhere else, I might like something else more than the dress from the day prior and relieve her guilt of missing the moment I found my wedding dress. Newsflash, I did not. We are still not speaking and I'm genuinely so hurt. I'm only doing this once and she completely missed it. Am I the asshole? I actually don't think that this writer is the asshole. I think her sister is a little bit of an asshole. I think that knowing that this was planned in a manner and delayed so that she could attend and that she liked the idea of it being delayed and scheduled for this particular thing, to then say, oh, I'm sorry, I want to be able to relax. Well, this is supposed to be an enjoyable and relaxing thing. Trying to do like a consolation prize of let's do a do-over the next day with a different group of people or just the two of us. I think that's a misstep, because what that means is I think her guilt about missing the actual activity. She's saying, well, here's a consolation prize. I don't think it's an actual good consolation prize. It actually just brings more sharply into focus that she screwed up. She would have been better off just saying, I really screwed up yesterday. I feel terrible that I missed it. I have a lot of regret that I missed it. What can we do together as like an alternate activity so that I can still feel like I'm connected to you, or just apologize. I think apologizing for it. The fact that she's saying, well, now I'm mad that you didn't like any of the dresses from day 2, your sister's being an asshole. That's an asshole move. So I don't think you're both being assholes. I think that, you guys have to figure this out. The thing about family is you're stuck with these people, and this is your twin sister. You will regret. She's already regretting the fact that she did not, participate in this wedding dress selection thing. And look, people make mistakes. It's part of loving a human being, is that they're going to make mistakes. It sounds like your sister made a mistake. It's really unfortunate, and it's probably its own punishment, because it sounds like she missed a really great time. She missed you finding your actual dress. She missed the lunch. She missed all the camaraderie that came with that event, and other people got to enjoy it. So it's really her loss. The best revenge has always been living well. But I think now she's realizing she made a mistake. Maybe she's not articulating it the right way, which makes her the asshole in this situation. She's also your twin sister. So give a little grace. There's going to be a time in your life, I'm sure, where you're going to need to receive a little grace from her. Say to her, perhaps very honestly, look, it sounds like you're upset at yourself for the fact that you missed this event. And I can let go and put that down, that you missed it. You were missed, perhaps. And again, I don't know how you communicated to her about it, but she missed this event. And then if you, in sort of an effort to rub it in her face that she missed a good time, overstated or very much brought focus to how much of a great time she missed, she might be perceiving that as an attack on her. So again, I'm not suggesting that it's wrong of you to be honest about the good time that she missed, but maybe look at your own self and say like, hey, am I amping up that? And am I doing it for the right reason? Am I doing it to twist the knife, or am I doing it so that genuinely she knows in the future not to do something like this to you again? Either way, this is your sister, man. You're stuck with her. I don't know what to tell you. The human capacity for friendship is God's way of apologizing for our families. So I think you're kind of stuck with each other, and you got to figure out a way to navigate and steer out of this. You can't divorce your siblings. You can't divorce your parents. Many of us wish we could. But at the end of the day, that this is something you guys have to figure out. And hopefully, what I'll say is, some of these Am I the Assholes that we've done, there's a lot worse than this. So I think to the extent that she's an asshole, your sister, she's a redeemable asshole. This is a forgivable asshole move. Hey, thanks for watching today, folks. Great to see everybody as always. Please remember to like and subscribe. It really does help the channel, and we'll look forward to seeing you again real soon. Take care.